everybody, and welcome to the Secular Dharma Foundation podcast with me, Dave Smith. I usually don't put a trailer or an intro at the beginning of the podcast, but I wanted to with this person here, Dr. Mark Miller, because I think he's such an important voice and somebody who's maybe not heard of so much. He is in the sphere, in the ecosystem of John Vervaeke, somebody who's made a big dent in my mind and somebody who's culturally very relevant in his work on the meaning crisis. And I was able to get in touch with Mark after having seen him talk with Vervaeke on some YouTube videos and also a podcast. Who is Mark? He's done a lot of things. He earned his PhD and master's degree in philosophy from the University of Edinburgh. He studied under the legendary cognitive philosopher Andy Clark, where he focused heavy on the embodiment and predictive brain. Today, his work spans across multiple prestigious global institutions. He is the Senior Research Fellow at the Monash University Center for Consciousness and Contemplative Studies in Australia. He's an Instructor and a Postdoctoral Fellow at the University of Toronto within their Psychology and Cognitive Science departments. And he also acts as a visiting researcher at Hokkaido's University Center for Human Nature, Artificial Intelligence, and Neuroscience in Japan. He is also the lab manager for U of T's Consciousness and Wisdom Lab. That's a mouthful. This guy is very busy. He's worked alongside, where I found him, his collaborator and teacher, Dr. John Vervaeke, where he works on the cutting edge of 4E cognitive science and predictive processing, exploring how our brains act as an active prediction-generating engines rather than passive observers. Mark is dedicated to bridging rigorous computational neuroscience with ancient contemplative wisdom. In my mind, he is a secular Dharma phenomenon, and I hope you enjoy our conversation, and I suspect there will be more. So without further ado, here is me and Mark. Thanks, y'all. All right, this is Dave Smith here with the Secular Dharma Foundation, here talking to Mark Miller. How's it going, Mark?
I'm very, very well. Excited to be on the pod.
Nice. Yes, me too. So let's dive right in. I guess what I want to do to set it up a little bit is because we are the Secular Dharma Foundation, and what we do is we dialogue at the intersection of sort of Dharma practice, early Buddhism, cognitive science, psychology, and just seeing how these worlds come together, and we smash them together, what happens. So I don't have an agenda.
This is my home. This is my home. This is where I live. That's awesome. Love it.
Yeah. So I have no agenda. But I have watched quite a bit of your stuff, and I just want to start off with, and we might probably spend the whole time here, this concept of the thing that you are, and that we oftentimes think about, we talk about something like happiness or meaning, or we create these ontological claims of these things that we want to be, concepts that are kind of murky, and then we think we need to merge ourselves and force ourselves into these terms that aren't purely defined. Yeah. And I see what you're saying is you're kind of going upstream a little bit and saying, well, okay, let's just put that on pause for a minute. But what is the thing that we are?
Yeah. It's
so
good.
Understanding the equipment, but how do I want to ask this first question? You talk about the thing that we are is epistemic.
Nice.
So there's a knowing capacity to that.
Yeah.
Which to me is early Buddhism on 101. But just unpack that a little bit. What is the thing that we are? How do you know it's epistemic? And sort of what's going on there?
Yeah, I dig it. Thank you. Yeah, right. So one of the things that we're excited about is just like you say, don't start at the ho-hum psychological explanation. Don't start upstream where you're already starting to think about, well, look, we know it's good to be resilient, or we know it's good to read 5 books a day, or body scanning. Body scanning is good for you. That's the newest one. We just have a publication out on body scanning and liberation, looking at early Theravadan texts. You don't want to start there. I mean, we have lots of evidence. You have psychological evidence that these things are good for you. The problem is that we don't know why they're good for you. So you can get positive correlation. Body scan increases interoceptive capabilities, lowers anxiety. But why? We still don't know why. Not exactly. And if we don't know why, then you're missing the part of the story that's going to tell you how you might best apply it or what other things are going to be like it. I mean, you're missing a lot of the, well, you don't have much understanding. It's hard to have wisdom if you don't have understanding.
Yeah.
So what we do is, as a part of my research, is like you say, going farther downstream or upstream and thinking about, well, what about the shape of the cognitive system itself? We just start from the shape of the cognitive system. Just start.
And what does that mean? The shape of the cognitive system? Is that, are we talking about the equipment now?
Yeah, equipment. Right. So can we give, what do we think about, what sort of computational explanation can we give of the equipment itself? What's the equipment doing?
What's the equipment doing? What is the equipment doing?
Yeah, and how is it organized? Because if you look at the shape of the equipment,
does it have a desire? Does it have an ultimate concern?
Right. So some wonderful work is coming out right now. I don't know if your listeners are apprised to this, but we're really we're in a golden age of a number of things. We're in the golden age of psychedelic research. I think we're in the golden age of secular Buddhism. And we're definitely in a new golden age of cognitive science, in a real Copernican revolution. Some of the ideas that have held sway for a couple of hundred years, they're being overturned in real time right now. And one of those is, how does the basic operating system work? How does the basic cognitive, and that includes the neural architectural process, how does that actually work? And we're getting this wonderful inversion story right now. It's the best way to see it is something like perception is no longer thought to be a passive process where we're waiting for information from the world to come in and then we're interpreting it. But rather, it looks like the brain and nervous system are radically proactive. They evolved to build for themselves from the top down what we expect to be happening next. So the sort of lovely take home from that is you don't see the world, you see your best guess about the world, which makes this a neuroscience of emptiness, really, because it says, well, this is all fabricated. Of course, it's rich and luminous and brilliant, but it's also generated endogenously. It's generated from the inside out.
So are you saying this? So we think about this in the world that we live in. We think about the world, that which is really out there.
Yeah.
And so what you're saying, and this is more of an early Buddhist thing, is like that we're interested in, like, we're creating the world, that which is really out there. We're making our best guess of what that is.
That's right.
And then we're trying to see how we might fit into that.
That's right. So here's the thing. Now, there is a world out there.
Totally.
There's a world out there.
I believe you're in Canada.
Right. I have a mom. There's a world out there. But the experience that we have of that world isn't the product of the world out there just imprinting itself on our senses.
No. It's
almost entirely an interpretive, fabricated process that generates that reality. And that's all endogenously created. We take the best models that we've generated. That's what we are. Now, this is why we come back to epistemic here. We are epistemic agents, first of all. We're epistemic organisms. That's just maybe all of life, if you think about it like this, is epistemic at its base, which is like this. If I'm going to make a good prediction about what happens next, then I have to have a good model of who I am and who you are and how the environment works. The modus operandi of the brain and nervous system is to figure out who I am, who you are, and what this is all about. That's at the core of the thing I am, is to figure out what this is all about. Because if I don't have a good model, I'm not making apt predictions. You don't make apt predictions, then your perception drifts away from real world stuff. And if that happens, you die. So our ancestors whose model drifted away from reality, they didn't persist.
They didn't make it.
How beautiful is that right at the heart is a drive to know. First and foremost is to know.
Just so people know, epistemic, what we're talking about is the epistemological, the knowing system of the
how
mind.
You know, exactly.
Which we also could call information, but information is not knowledge, and knowledge is not wisdom.
Indeed. But I would say this isn't the knowledge gaining part of the mind. Say it stronger. What it is, the mind is an apprehension engine. That's what it is. That's what you are.
So it's just making best guesses all day long.
And figuring out how it works. All you are is you're just set up to figure out how it works. It's what you are.
Right.
It's what you are. Isn't that wonderful? Because now we have a contemplative tradition. You have a contemplative tradition that's saying, look, if you don't take that seriously and you don't do it, because you can do it worse and you can do it better.
Yeah.
You can figure out how it works poorly. Echo chambers, filter bubbles, parasitic ideologies. There's lots of ways that we can be tripped up about organizing how we think it is. And there's lots of recursive feedback loops here, because once you expect it to be a certain way, you end up
we can get
perceiving
into all the
that, and then you confirm it.
Classic suffering.
But imagine that you have a whole tradition that says, if you don't do this well, you're going to be in tremendous pain, because it's what you are.
Yeah.
And what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay out a path. I'm going to lay out an apt path for how to do this well. And what is this? It's what you are. It's not. So this isn't just for,
right.
I don't know, the South Indian continent or something. I mean, it is, if you're alive, if you are sentient, then doing epistemology well is dead center. It's the beating heart.
I was so happy to hear you say that, because in many ways, not to toot my own horn, I kind of assumed that was the case all along. As a Dharma practitioner, I kind of was like,
sure.
I thought that might be what was happening. I didn't, but so to hear it come, that's why I love this conversation. You're like, actually, it turns out dude was right about that too.
No, I'll tell you. Does the science do something more than what you've already discovered, like from the Dharma?
Yeah.
Like, not necessarily, but what it does do is it's like a secondary point.
Yeah.
Where you don't start from the psychology. You start just from the shape of the architecture, the shape of the cognitive architecture itself. The very first lesson you learn is the way that the system works is it has to ascertain real world stuff. It has to figure out how it is. And we've done now like 15 years of pathology research using the same framework to model depression, addiction, anxiety, trauma, PTSD, depersonalization, derealization, OCD, now schizophrenia, autism. One of the major things you see, like a fingerprint of pathology, is a divergence of your world model from real world invariabilities. So the more your model drifts away from the real world, no wonder conspiracy theories are comorbid with mental illness.
Yeah.
Because the farther your model pulls away from the real world stuff, the sicker we get. And the closer it comes, and it can never be perfectly close.
No,
Gilgan was right.
I mean, we're looking for good enough.
We're looking for better and better and better and better, and like they say in the Zohar, like choose the lesser darkness. Yeah. The closer the model gets to the world, the more healthy.
So we're looking for gradual cultivation, classically gradual cultivation.
Yeah. Hey, yeah, exactly. It's fabulous, isn't it? Isn't it just ripe? It's just ripe to Dharma geek about.
Yeah. Well, then I'll even diverge from the secular for a minute and bring Paul Tillich into the conversation. I don't know how much you know about him.
No, I don't know.
His definition, he's a Christian existential writer, kind of controversial, wrote a book in the 50s called The Courage to Be. Great book. And his definition of religion is ultimate concern. And so it seems like that's our ultimate concern. And to some degree, I mean, just personally, I would even be happy to say that I'm epistemic, but to some degree, that puts me in the position of I have to at least struggle with, and it's in my best interest to struggle with what religion might actually be.
Yeah, I love that. One of the things that we're very interested in is, and I want to present this in the right way. We're not using this framework to validate spiritual or religious ideology.
I get that.
But in fact, we go the other way around. But it is it's amazing how you start just from the computational level. Let's just think about information dynamics, self-organizing dynamics in our kind of system. How does that work? How does it work over time? Okay. And then you just take one more step and say, what could we do that would make that kind of system well? And what could we do that would really, really fuck that system up? Yeah. Just start there. What could we do? And the answers are things we already know. You like when you look at the bad ones, you're like, yeah, okay, I knew that already. But the good ones turn out to be native to all of our religious and spiritual traditions. Like intellectual humility is one. Humility as a virtue for our kind of system is a superpower, because humility means that you have a sufficiently high level prediction in your model that all of the rest of your predictions are only relatively true.
Right.
And you should always be on the lookout for updating, optimization, improvement.
So another way to say that that allows you to be very adaptive.
That's it right there. Is it lets you update. That's you're right on it. You're right on the pulse. The thing that's so well-being inducing from that is that you can update super optimally. Now the cost is, if you're humble, then you have a little bit of uncertainty about your own models, which means it's more costly to be you. You have to be in a position where you're like, oh, I'm not sure. Yeah. I have to bear the uncertainty of existence to be there. But the payoff is that you are open-minded and curious and playful in a way that allows you to be constantly learning at your edge.
So you're already primed for always being willing to get a model or an update, a system update. You're like, I'm open to having a better version of what I already have.
Dead on. You are on it. I have goosebumps. Awesome talking with somebody who's just like right on. Exactly right. Yeah. You'll know those people because those are the people that, like, if you correct them for the way they pronounce something, or if they use a word that's like a bit dated, and you're like, hey, check the word. These are the kind of people that are like, oh, that's very interesting. Tell me about that. Like, what's the etymology that you're worried about? Wow, fascinating. Like, I didn't know. I didn't know it had that kind of pressurization in it.
Knowing what you don't know is in your best interest all the time.
And then we're back to Socrates, right?
I know, exactly.
I mean, wisdom is knowing that you don't know. Yeah. It's once you start looking, it's everywhere.
All right, what I'm going to do now, I'm going to go back everything we just said and throw a bunch of early Buddhist terminology at it, particularly some Pali, and just see what happens.
Let's do it.
And I heard John say this, and I've been obsessed with John Vervaeke for a long time, and I was like, I'll take this Mark Miller guy. I actually like you a little bit more. So I've been obsessed with the meaning crisis, and I'm obsessed with episode 10 in the meaning crisis, Buddhism and Parasitic Processing, where he references one of my primary teachers and one of my good friends, Stephen Batchelor. Stephen Batchelor really influenced my ideas about 15 years ago in his re-understanding of the Four Noble Truths, or this problematic term dukkha. I'm sure you've come across a time or two. And John's explanation, I think, is great. He says it in a more direct way that Stephen says it, that the equipment, and this is right out of the sutta, the equipment, the five aggregates, the equipment, the same equipment that allows to adaptability and flourishing is the same equipment that leads to maladaptive behaviors and human suffering. Yeah. So that for me, that's where the Buddha starts. He's like, listen, man, like, this can go a variety of ways if you're not careful.
That's right. That's right. Wonderful. So just think. So one of the things, so this is going to answer your question, but I just want to come at it a little bit to the side. One of the remarkable things about the propagation of this new framework throughout the sciences of mind is it's offering what many think could be the first unified theory of the mind.
Wow.
So we're always looking for that, right?
Interesting that we don't even have that yet.
No. I mean, we don't. The brain is like alien technology. It's so complicated. It's just shockingly complicated. I teach Introduction to Cognitive Science at the University of Toronto, and basically I have a full year to tell the students, like, the brain's too hard to study.
Do you have a pithy definition of mind that you could say right now?
No, I don't. No, I don't. I don't have that. So
that's awesome.
The unifying quality is remarkable. So here's one place where you see the unifying quality. We used to have siloed research agendas looking at, let's say, perception, dreaming, hallucination, delusion, mind wandering. Okay. These seemed like different factions where we wanted to, you're going to have different scientists specializing in these different things, but you make it such that what perception isn't the passive interpretation of the world, but rather We're using the model of how we know how the world works in order to endogenously generate, that's create for yourself from the top down, what we expect the next moment to be. And our experience of the world is not the world, but our expectation of the world. Our experience of the world is our expectation of the world built from the constellation of beliefs and models that we've constructed over our lifetime and maybe lifetimes, or, I mean, there might be like a phylogenetic quality here where we have ancestral dynamics. Okay. We're using that to create for ourselves reality. Now, the difference between delusion, hallucination, and perception is just model aptness. Oh. It's the exact same mechanism. We're just talking about drift from reality. Okay?
That's really helpful, actually.
Now you're talking about the hardware itself. So the bad spot is the hardware itself is prone to delusion if it's not cared for well. And it's baked right in. Perception is delusion. It's just apt delusion. It's just good delusion. Right. It's just rich world revealing hallucination.
It's just the best assessment that I can come up with right now.
Okay. So the same machinery is what leads us totally to delusion. But on the side of it working well, the remarkable thing is you might think, well, this sounds like we're one step removed from reality. And in a way we are, but in another way we're not, because reality is so massively, massively complicated that you cannot comprehend. You cannot comprehend reality. So you needed to have a system that was able to reach through the unbelievable noise of existence and grip the thing that matters to you. Apples and snakes and people who love you. And this system is that, because what it does is it effectively allows you.
Is that what perception does? Is that its function?
It's the function is to reach through the noise to the thing that matters. Now, the problem is what you grip.
But what if I don't know what matters?
Indeed. That's the rub. Where the system reaches through has everything to do with the shape of the model. Yeah. And the model can be poorly shaped or it can be properly shaped. Yeah. And there's lots of meta skills in that. And when you look at it like that, basically all of the meta skills that you would want somebody to have so that they're reaching through to the right sorts of things are native to the contemplative traditions. Yeah, well, that's what they are.
I was pulling this off my shelf. I don't know if you read Mindfulness in Early Buddhism by Seifu Kwan. I can send you the PDF if you want to. His assessment is the whole goal of mindfulness from early Buddhism is to get perception organized in a corrective way.
Right.
Do you think that's all it's for?
I have no notes. Done.
Right. And so, interesting about the Pali is that there's in the Pali language, the suffix of a word, that anything that ends in nna, nya means to know.
No, exactly.
Sanya means to know. Vijnana, consciousness, means to know. Vedana means to feel and to know. 3 of the 5 aggregates are about knowing. Wisdom, panya, means to know. So the Buddha's just, guys, you say it's all a knowing, and panya means to fully know. And then the weird thing is the task of the First Noble Truth, dukkha parinya, there's that nya again. The task is to fully know. I'll steal from John Vervaeke here. Not to fully know your autobiography, but your owner's manual. That's task numero uno. And if you don't get that one down, you might as well just dump the whole rest of the damn project.
Oh, it's fabulous. The knowing quality there is fabulous. And
I mean, again, it's littered. Pali is full of nya. Anytime you see nna, you know that's what he's talking about. Nya.
I feel like I'm having this conversation a lot recently because, we're doing this jhana research. So we're doing EEG studies. We're doing EEG studies on retreatants, but also on monastics. Yeah. And so then we're speaking more in spaces where people are interested in altered states. Yeah. And
what is an altered state then, really? If we go back if you go back to what you just talked about, perception. What are the characteristics of an altered, and what makes one state altered and one state not altered if it's just about perception?
Yeah, it's good. Well, I think the answer is something like an altered state is going to be when we enter into we enter into a particular kind of self-organizing regime. The perceptual system gets reorganized temporarily. I mean, it's got to be temporary if it's an altered state. It can't be a persistent state. It's got to be temporary, and it's got to be enough of a reorganization of the perceptual dynamics that you can say, "Hey, that's different." Okay. I've temporarily entered in a new state.
So it's new. So,
yeah, right. Like John is such a good example. Like you learn to be able to control attention in a way that you can really start messing around with how the model is generating this experience. Yeah. Like you can, for instance, what we think is happening, one of the things that's happening in jhana is that this predictive model that we're running that creates our reality, it's temporally deep. That means we're always using all the things that happened to us in the past to generate and create what's happening now. But that's in the context of all the things that we expect to be happening into the future. So it's a temporally deep model. Of course, it would have to be. If it's anticipatory, then it has to take into account all of the things that are going to happen next.
I got you.
When you're practicing jhana, and actually not just jhana, late stage shamatha and all sorts of the.
What about insight states like samadhi or
of course, and I was just about to say,
there's a whole bunch of those.
The insight states as well. There's a number of states where concentration is going to be pooled either on an object, a present-centered object in such a way that the temporal depth of the model gets distorted or disrupted temporarily. And that's what we see in jhana. You pour so much attention, you turn the volume so up on a particular object that basically what you do is you remove the attentional resources that are keeping the depth up and active. Mm-hmm. And so you temporarily lose it. So this timelessness that you're getting is because you've temporarily removed the potency from this part of the generative model. So that's an altered state because that's not the ordinary way you experience the world. You can't do anything from there, right? And literally, John is a good one because you enter into a pocket and then you exit the pocket and you can look back and say, well, look, I was just in a very different state.
Well, then you get into the whole attention conversation. Oh, go ahead.
No, well, the reason why I brought up jhana, though, was because we're increasingly invited into discussions where people want to talk about the role of peak experiences and altered states in liberation. And I think they expect us to be cheerleaders for some of these things. Like, yeah, if we can hit these altered states faster, harder, let's see if we can come up with a nootropic that backs us into it faster, then we'll have the story. But we end up being we're the sober Dharma scientists on the panel being like, peak experiences are nothing compared to knowing. It's all about what you learn. It's the learning that matters.
You're preaching to the choir now because I'm very suspicious of these kinds of things. There's a term we use in my kind of cohort of meditators called state chasers.
Right.
Where they think that they're gonna have some experience and that's going to mean something on the other side of that experience.
The learning is everything. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't have changes in state that you learn from, of course. Right. I mean, that's what the Buddha was doing with jhana, probably was shifting between jhanas and then looking, learning. Yeah. But it's the apprehension that matters there, not just.
Well, let's talk about the risk of attention because I work with a lot of people with trauma. I'm in recovery. I was a drug addict for a long time, and I have a highly traumatized brain. And as a meditator, that was not always easy. And the most difficult negotiation is the attention negotiation. Because when you ask me to pay attention to a singular object, I do so at the expense of ignoring everything else. Yep. And that is a risky proposition for somebody who's afraid of the world. And a lot of times,
because vigilance comes down. You become hyper vulnerable.
That's right. And this comes right out of Kuladas's illuminated mind. An overforced attention triggers fight and flight.
Yeah, because you lose awareness. So that's true.
Not
it's
good.
Amazing. No, actually, there's some nice research. If you know Michael Graziano, he's an attention researcher. And he tells a story that I think is very convincing, very useful for Dharma teachers too, where attention and awareness are really two different resources that are probably showing up in the brain. Lots of overlapping network stuff, but they might be sufficiently separated in the brain. And one of the reasons, actually, there might even be a story that the hemispheres are the way they are because we needed attention and awareness collaborating. You needed attention to pick out food from non-food related things, and you needed awareness to watch the horizon so you didn't become food.
Right.
And over-fixation on food makes you food. Right? But over fascination with not being food means
starvation.
you don't get any food, right?
Mm-hmm.
So again, Chuladasa, optimal balance between attention and awareness turns out to be
Well,
critical.
that's a big conversation, and I think a very not well crafted conversation. I don't know if you're familiar with it. The person I like in this conversation is work of Amishi Jha. Are you familiar with her work on attention?
No, well, maybe the name sounds familiar.
She's
Keep,
been on. She's
keep
been on
talking.
quite a few stuff, but her basically says we used to think it was two. We used to think it was OM, FAOM, focused attention, open monitoring was
And
kind
open
of
monitoring.
the general thing. And she said there's a third one actually that's called. She calls it goal oriented attention. For what purpose? I'm paying attention to this object, but for what purpose? Am I paying attention to this object? So she's saying in the context of a present moment, I have like my flashlight. So if I put my flashlight on, I get the salient qualities of what I'm seeing at the expense of everything else. If
That's
I
right.
turn my floodlight on, I see everything else at the expense of being able to see the salient qualities of things. And then the third thing is, for what purpose am I engaging in this in any way? And
Yeah,
she
that's
talks
good.
about these intentional systems all actually not being separate, but actually being part of an integrated system, which I thought was
Sure.
interesting. And because it's from a first person's user experience, this whole attention awareness thing is really tricky.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. Yeah, that sounds very interesting.
Yeah.
I'm wondering about one of the descriptions of the relationship between attention and awareness I like is that again, I think this is Michael Graziano. Attention is like punching out parts in a factory, and awareness is the quality controller, making
Sure.
sure that the thing that you're punching out is apt.
So they're both super
And
important.
yeah, and I like that starting there, then it looks less like we have a attention deficit disorder as a society, but we have an awareness deficit disorder because we have so much powerful attending happening
Yeah.
that we're disrupting our capability of being aware. And without the quality controller is actually the one that gets rid of, it's like Jupiter or something that gets rid of the asteroids so that they stop grabbing your attention here and there and here and there.
So you're also saying, and back to that in all of these things, what really actually matters that does the heavy lifting is developing that knowing capacity. That's really what we really should be focusing on, rather than trying to find these singular skills we want to silo out and master.
Yeah, I mean, if we go back to the framework that we started with, I think it's very interesting to start thinking about, well, does it say anything about what liberation looks like?
Right. That's a good question.
I mean, what's happening? What's happening in liberation? I mean, what is it? What's the super special knowing? And
That's good. Yeah.
you don't want to be you don't want to be too reductionist here, but it's something like the shape of the generative model is the way that it is, not just because of the life that you've lived, but like Carl Friston, one of the big drivers of this view, potentially the driver of this big view, he goes so far as to say, you don't have a generative model. Generative model here is a technical term. It's the model that you have of yourself in the world from which you're generating predictions, from which you're generating your reality. Okay. He goes so far as to say, you don't have a generative model. You are a generative model.
Okay.
Your brain, nervous system, and body are the way that they are because they reflect the consistencies in the niche. You fit the niche like a lot to a key. You're upright because that's the best expectation your biosystem could have to manage the kinds of opportunities that were available to you when those pressures are around. So you are the shape of the world. You are the generative model. Okay. So you just have to think, you're this ancient bundle of beliefs, and we're going to call them beliefs.
Okay, good.
But I mean,
want to
even
talk
your
about
hand,
that. That's good. Yeah.
your hand's shape is a kind of belief. It's the belief that this shape hand is the best one for my niche, carved out over millions of years under selective pressures. Okay, we call them beliefs. So you're an incredible ecosystem tapestry of these beliefs, running from very, very ancient to very, very to right now. We've never met. You're generating beliefs in real time about me right now.
Mm-hmm.
But at the deepest part of this generative model are foundational beliefs that you solidified as an organism a long, long time ago. And they're things like, if I get it and you don't, that's better. Or that I persist as a single bounded thing over time. if you didn't have an belief that you're a single bounded thing persisting through time, you would have never been motivated to act on the world in ways that make you persist over time. We don't need that hard driver the way we did when we were a single cell organism or as a simple mammal. A lot of these are outdated. They're outdated models that still run, and we know they run. We know they run because we look at the way that we behave and the way we act and the way that we're surprised when people die, or we're surprised that we get old. We're like, oh my God, I got old.
So
and you're like,
let me repackage
I don't know how you missed.
Yeah, because I like what you're saying.
Please.
That is to say that I also have some explicit beliefs and implicit beliefs. Like so there's language, there's certain things like this is where therapy might come in handy. We probably need to know what some of our beliefs might actually be. Because if I'm operating from a belief model, is kind of what you're saying.
Yeah.
And I don't know what I believe.
Yeah.
Well, that's going to be a mess.
Yeah. So here's the thing.
So beliefs are, because people in the Dharma world like to dismiss, it's not a belief. They like to dismiss the whole belief system thing. But if what you're saying is correct, man, I need to really, if I'm epistemic and I'm operating under beliefs, I need to know what the hell they are.
Hey, this is critical. Let's talk about this. So, your system, the shape of your system, the belief of your systems is paramount. And oftentimes it's transparent to the agent. You don't know. You don't know what the operating system is doing. You don't know what beliefs are. Because actually, unlike agent level beliefs where you're like, I believe in Santa Claus. I believe it's nice to have a beer on Friday. Those are agent level beliefs you could have. But the reality that you're experiencing is constituted by the system's beliefs. This is the product of your beliefs. And now, if that sounds spooky,
it doesn't really.
Good, because if anybody thinks it sounds spooky, just think of the difference between your friends that are pessimists and optimists. If they have the exact same party experience, you invite them both to your house party. They have very similar data sets, and then you ask them to tell you about their reality. Then you know the reality that they're living in is very, very, very different. They're selectively sampling the world experience that they're having, carved out from the system's beliefs. The pessimist system's beliefs are like, this will never work right. This is a place that's fraught with misery. And all you're doing now is self-reporting, self-evidencing for misery. The optimist is like, this is Pure Land. It's beautiful. Look at us getting along. Look at us making it work. Two very different realities. And that's because of the shape of the beliefs you have. And you're right. So something that comes right up front and center when you think like this is that beliefs are so important. Belief hygiene is something I find myself talking a lot about.
I love
now.
that word. I love you. Oh my God, that is so.
How to believe well. Let's look. Now, I'm not going to say you should believe this or that. I have a few things that I think you should believe. Okay. But mostly I'm interested in starting a conversation about where are you getting your beliefs from? Yeah. And is that a good place? And what would it mean to be a better believer? What does that look like? Because I'll tell you, doom scrolling and getting your news from, I don't know, Joe Rogan or something is not the optimal way to inform good belief structures. Yeah. I mean, the Joe Rogan podcast is amazing, but like, you don't want to go there to like get
depends who's on that day, you know.
Well, I don't know. Like overall, you know what I mean? Like, this is where I'm going to get informed about the world. Yeah. Because that's not the aim. The aim there isn't to give you like a.
Well, I have kids. Not to give you a good, kids.
I do. Yeah. I've got a 3-year-old daughter named Grace, and we're pregnant right now.
Oh, good for you. I'm a little bit ahead of you. I got a 7 and a 13.
Oh, nice.
But my 7-year-old, I talk about this. And this is kind of a little bit of more of a trauma therapy attachment kind of lens on these things. But like, I believe that the world is going to meet his needs. So he goes out of the house and he believes that the world is here for him to live well. Yeah. So he acts as if.
And I bet it meets him. It probably raises right up to meet him.
And then you have somebody who has a different, upbringing, and they believe that the world isn't going to meet their needs. The world is not interested in me. I don't actually fit into this world. There is that self-fulfilling prophecy thing starts to become a little bit more important, doesn't it?
Self-fulfilling prophecy is
that's real.
It's completely native to this view, because your world isn't what's out there, it's your expectation. So if you have a strong expectation, you will self-evidence for those outcomes. So you'll be looking for the evidence for them.
Yeah.
And when there's so much diversity of data, the likelihood that you can self-evidence for beliefs that you have is very high, especially with the internet. So one of the projects I give my undergraduates is I get them into groups, and then they make up any conspiracy theory they want, but it has to be super zany. Okay. And then they have to go find the subreddit forum
I'm
where
sure
people
it's not
believe
that
that.
hard.
No, and you can find it, and you can make up almost anything, and then you can find confirmation evidence for it. That's everywhere in this. Now that's a trap, but there's some good stuff too, like the power of gratitude, or let's go deeper since we're on a Dharma podcast here, like empathic joy, the Brahma Viharas. They work like this too.
They totally work like this.
Start practicing joy for other people's wisdom progress. And now everywhere is wisdom progress. You do that an hour a day, you're stepping out into the world and being like, where did all these wise people come from? I'm in the park. This mom is like bringing her son to like the edge of difficulty and then like sitting with him in it. Like, when did parents become this? Suddenly you're living in a world that makes some sense.
So you're getting a perceptual database upload.
And it's there. It's there.
It's there. It's all over the place. This
is why you can have monks say, this is pure land, don't you know? Why don't you know that? And you're like, no, but look at all the problems. And they're like, yes, yes, I know there are problems, but look, like really look. Look,
it's interesting because I just got done teaching this retreat. You would love this, I think. I teach a style of practice that not a lot of people know called Metta Vipassana, where I blend the Brahma Viharas with the foundations of mindfulness. So the insight.
The only way it should be done.
And thank you, sir.
That's the only way it should be done.
You know, and that comes
dry insight without love as a strengthening and protective feature function is banana pants.
See, I learned this right from the get-go from Steve Smith, who was actually the last Westerner ordained by Mahasi Sayadaw. And this practice comes from deep from the Sagaing Hills in Burma. This is like ancient, authentic lineage of stuff where it's like, you know, you're seeing what's arising. There's that ease, that metta field. I call it, you know, the medicine. You know, and if you can set a base of kind, friendly.
No, it does. Everything works from there on. You don't have to do anything else. You don't need a teacher anymore. If you're in love, then the program unfolds spontaneously and beautifully, and you don't have these dark nights.
Nothing can go wrong.
No. The Buddha said, if you're going to go out to a haunted forest, loving kindness is your honor guard. Yeah. Right, your honor guard that you take with you. Who would go to a haunted forest without their honor guard? Who would go to a forest of thieves without their honor guard?
No, yeah.
And then you find people doing these late stage practices, and they don't have loving kindness as their honor guard. I think wild.
Yeah, we'll have to talk more about that because now you're. I'll get on my soapbox real quick here.
Yeah, nice.
Let's talk about emotion.
Yeah, nice.
Because I know you've done some study in that and the affective science of dimension. Now, I grew up actually down the street from Dan Goleman, so I've been deep in the emotion conversation for a long time. You know, I'm kind of more from the Goleman-Ekman school. Yep. The constructive emotions, destructive emotions, and I know that someone who's been really, and I've heard you mention her name. Where do you sit between the Ekman and Linda Feldman Barrett? Because she's been very critical of Ekman in a way. I thought that was kind of a bit unkind.
What's she critical about? I don't know the debate.
She kind of says she's kind of debunked all of his stuff, and she's kind of gone out of her way to debunk it. And it may or may not be true, but it was interesting to be like, why is she so hot on debunking Ekman?
Can you give me one? Do you know one example? Can you resurrect an example?
She debunks universal emotions. She doesn't believe there's universal emotions.
That's right. Yeah,
she doesn't believe in the facial expression stuff. Some of the stuff she doesn't believe in, I sort of don't have a dog in that fight anyway. But where do you? Let me think. Do you are?
I'm strongly in Lisa Feldman Barrett's camp, actually.
Okay.
So.
You don't think there's universal emotions that we share across? No. Like anger is not a universal. So are there people who just don't have anger?
Well, so I think the right direction of fit for the conversation isn't to start from, do we all share something like anger? It's something more primitive than that.
Okay.
Lisa Feldman Barrett's research program is based on the same framework that I'm proposing here.
Okay.
And according to that framework, one of the things that she's derived is that this old idea that we can somehow, from the psychological level, upstream, or downstream, whichever you want to call it, okay, where we're just looking around and making ontological categories. And then we're going to go fishing in the brain to try to find the patterns that relate, as if the brain is so simple that there's going to be locations where we can go, oh, there's the love area. There it is. I knew it was there. And we share it with rats because we both have the love area. That's a debunked old and actually quite a dangerous view, I think, to hold still about the brain. And we're still doing it. So I still go to conferences where people are like, the amygdala is the fear area. Yeah. Brain doesn't work like that. Yeah. The amygdala plays at least 100, and Louis Passeau in his most recent book says it plays at least 115 different operations, depending on which networks it's softly assembled with at the current time. Yeah. To say it is this area is a problem. Much of neuroscience has gone backwards. They start from a phenomenon because it's too complex. The brain's too weird. So this is the best we can do. Start with phenomenon. We get a grant. We do fMRI, and then we say, there's the circuits. And then we hypothesize out of that. And actually, it's bad science. So what Lisa has put pressure on, or actually more than that, the theory that she's helping to establish and fill out is that rather than thinking about it that way, emotions are just like reality. They're constructed by our generative model.
Sure.
Okay. And they're built from, that's the constructed theory of emotion. They're built from all of the things that have happened to us in the past, the ways that we expect this particular change to move into the future. So the same way as I'm perceiving the outside world by making my best guess about the outside world, my internal world is also my best guess over my internal world. The generative model is doing the same thing. Both are constructed. So is there a part of the brain that we all share that's the anger part of the brain? No.
And I don't think so, definitely not. I don't think Ekman's saying that. I think he's more talking about they're more, like, you should learn about emotions in biology class, not psychology class. They're really a feature of the somatic experience. So in that system, it's great from a contemplative model because, A, what he's saying is we're not always emotional and we're mostly not emotional.
Right.
Do you think that's an interesting way. Like, are we always emotional? Do they arise dependent on cause? Do they go latent? Like, what's going on there?
So a couple of things there that are really interesting. So one, could we have shared experiences? Yes, because the generative model could be conditioned in similar ways.
Sure.
For huge numbers of us. So that might be the case. So that's what the direction of fit I was talking about. We might still have lots of shared experiences, lots of shared styles of processing, but that won't be because we have some area that does that. It'll be because the generative model is shaped in a similar way between us. Okay, let's leave that off the table for a second. Two big points that I think are worthwhile bringing up here. One is, are we always emotional? So it's very important to figure out what we mean by emotion there. Because if what you mean is affective processing in the brain and body, sometimes or always, it's always. There's no such thing as cognition or perception without affect. So every single,
definitely.
So we have this old ontological category where we say there's thinking and feeling, and then we want to pit them against each other or something.
You can't do it.
But there's no perception without feeling. Perception is feeling. That's what it is. So it's laden. It's wedded. Perception, action, cognition, and behavior they're wedded. Pulling them apart is an old idea, and it's not respected by the actual neurophysiology.
Nor would it be by the term chitta.
Right. Indeed. The last thing I wanted to say, though, was, let's see if I can resurrect it. An important, I think this gets said a lot, but I think it could get said more, that there's actually, like, Ekman is still free to propose models that are useful for the contemplative in a way that, even if the science shows otherwise, is invulnerable to criticism. And actually, that's what you see when you put Buddhism and Dharma beside each other. The Dharma program is not about getting a good, clear metaphysics of the mind. It's actually a soteriological project.
Soteriological. It's about what works, not about what's true.
That's right. So when I talk to, like, for instance, Brother Phap Lin about Dharma and science at Plum Village. He's just like, we don't care if the map turns out to be true. If it's useful and it gets you out of suffering, that's the thing we care about. So the ontological categories we're coming up with are useful for training the mind. And they've been proven to be useful for training the mind. Now, because our introspection is very powerful as contemplatives, the likelihood that our map overlaps with something that we're going to derive from cognitive science, neuroscience, is very, very high, but it's also accidental. And I don't think people notice that it's an accident. It's high. It's a high probability, but it's completely accidental. And it's orthogonal to the point. So you can have a map, and if it's useful, use it in the Dharma. But that's different from doing the science. And maybe there's a little bit cross purpose there too.
No, that's good, because I think the reason why I think Ekman and Goldman in their work with the Dalai Lama was so essential. Well, I'm trained in a program called Cultivating Emotional Balance, which blends these two. They're great because they work.
Yeah.
Now, we might go through and go, actually, it turns out the science on the emotions isn't actually correct. It's like, yeah, but it still works. Right? So that's kind of a beautiful thing, I think, in the conversation, is like, even the Buddha's like, it doesn't have to be, quote unquote, scientifically proven to actually have soteriological value. And that is just an interesting framework to just struggle with, I think.
What's the Buddha say? Something like, I keep trying to take the arrow out of your heart, and you keep asking me what's it made of.
Exactly.
So let me get so let's put the horse before the cart here. Can I get the arrow out of you, and then can we then have some metaphysical discussions about what's the case?
Yeah. But people really get dug in on that stuff.
Yeah. And it's Lisa's. That's her. She's very, very intelligent, and she's very, very good at what she does.
Yeah.
And one of the things that she does very well today is sniffing out this bad science, and then putting pressure on it. So for what it's worth, especially, and now if model updating is healthy for us, and we've already established that.
Yeah.
One of the things, and maybe we could talk about this a little bit here too, is debate turns out to be very good for us. We want conflict. We want fight. We want infighting. We want multiple perspectives, because homogeny can lead to model drift. So actually they've shown that this is so cool. If you oversimplify a city, like if you make it too easy to get from point A to point B, depression and anxiety go up. But if you add a bunch of like provocative art installations and guerrilla gardening things, and you make people live beside each other that have problems with each other,
they do well.
Depression and anxiety go down. Yeah. So you need some fighting.
Back to the belief thing, is that it matters so much, because if I believe that the world isn't going to meet my needs, I kind of live into that belief and that perception, and I'm looking for evidence. And then that's unwell for my system.
That's amazing, eh?
It's
like
not
all
good
this
for
stuff,
me.
All this stuff around the secret and setting intentions and believe, behave, become. They have some real traction here in the science. So here's a good sports example. So there's a thing called the hot hand phenomenon, where if your team has won a couple of times, you think they're sure to win the next time.
Sure.
Okay. Now, statistically, it's a stupid thing to believe, because a different game on a different day with different players in a different stadium, the statistics between games can't.
The math doesn't add up.
No. Okay. But then you actually look at the stats and it exists. Okay. So if you win a bunch of times, you are statistically more likely to win. It's wild. Okay. So here's the reason why. You win a couple of times, and then team starts expecting to win because you up the level of expectation.
Yeah.
A team that expects to win sees more opportunities to win. They see more opportunities to be reckless. They see more chances to break through.
Yeah.
A team that expects to lose sees the court as a place of defense on their back foot. They don't see reckless opportunities. Now, the thing is that they're not being biased. The world that's being generated for them is the world that produces winning or produces losing, and that has everything to do with expectation. And you can hack that. Yeah. You can hack that by waking up in the morning and being like do gratitude, do 10 minutes of gratitude practice first thing in the morning, and you'll get your system on the lookout for where it's working.
So you get a perceptual edge.
Completely.
And so are we talking about constructive delusion now?
We're talking about useful pressure on the belief system. Yeah. Now, it's not, I don't think it's rose-tinted glasses, and I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
We're so, evolutionarily speaking, we're like a sponge to negativity, and we're like Teflon to the good. And you've got to go. Do you
think that's built in, or do you think that's cultural?
It's built in. It's built in.
It's built in. Because, so that's that classic Rick Hansen. That's correct. You think is the negative attention bias really real?
Yeah, big time.
Okay, that's
and the reason is because like if you miss a tiger tail sweeping behind a tree, that's a problem for you and your family.
Yeah.
If you miss somebody smiling at you or complimenting you,
no big deal.
You'll catch it the next time round. Okay, so one costs more.
Yeah.
One costs more. Okay.
Yeah, like the snake, the rope is a snake one time and you're dead. So you might as well, even if you're wrong 99 times, it's worth it.
The cat that jumps from the cucumber looks stupid, but it lives. That's why they're here. They're the fruit of billions of years of successful procreation. They're optimized to their environment. Jumping at cucumbers is an optimal reaction. You have to go a long direction you have to go a long way in the direction of gratitude before you're standing upright. So this isn't rose-tinted glasses. Mm-hmm. The fact is, you have billions of bits of information coming into you in a day, and you are selectively sampling some subset. And all we're saying here is you could selectively sample the parts that are working a little more than you are, and the world would open up as an opportunity to increase and to find your edge.
So you got to cultivate that, though. You have to really
totally.
You have to
and you're pushing against tulpas of karma.
Yeah.
You're pushing against a long time of the opposite, which is why it's hard.
Well, I know we're coming up on time. There's one question I definitely want to ask you.
Tell me.
Besides all the other ones. What do you think the Dharma world is not talking about but should be?
Such a good question. The importance of establishing a good view. I don't know if right view is getting talked about enough. Well, two things: loving kindness and Vipassana, the Brahma Viharas and its application of Vipassana.
That's all I do. That's my life.
Then we gotta be best friends, and I gotta come down and do a retreat with you because that's
the next question. Yeah. I have stuff on the calendar. We'll take it offline, but
that's my jam.
I want to put you in front of the room so bad.
Let's go. I'm 100% in. That has to be done. I'm such an advocate of that approach. Same way I teach.
Yeah.
I think view is the big thing right now.
Right view is like just that word needs to just be gone. There's no such thing as right view.
Interesting.
Is there?
So I'm thinking about it. I'll tell you how I'm thinking about it. I'm very
like the
interested.
Zen master. I hold no views. I cannot be refuted.
But yeah. So then the
debate is over.
The view there is that having established no preference, the world is light. I mean,
that's not necessarily a good idea either.
I'll tell you where I'm coming from.
Sorry, you don't need to be.
That's okay. And then you kick it back to me. I'm thinking about this in terms of some of the dark night work that we're seeing coming out of Willoughby, Britain.
Sure.
And I'm looking at
familiar.
Where meditation is hurting people, and where I see it doing its most harm is where the view isn't yet established. I mean to say, you're still prone to either the parasitic ideological aspects of this thing, or like, for instance, nihilism can eat the same food as insight.
Right. Well, right? That's a Sila problem. That's an ethics problem.
Yeah. But from what we've been saying here, the shape of the generative model is in a way a view. It's the way that reality is given moment to moment. So right view could also be right shape of the model, and the model can be shaped in different ways. And if the model's shaped well, the way that it meets and digests volatility is very, very different. So for instance, the Christians who went to the Gulag in Alexander Solzhenitsyn, there's a story where a Christian comes to the Gulag and everybody else is starving and dying and he's putting on weight. He says he sees him out there cutting wood. He's taking his shirt off in winter and he's bigger and just going for it. And he said the reason looked like he had such a deep faith that suffering would bring him near Christ, would bring him near God, would give him an opportunity to serve. That this was just put right on the path. It was just the path in front of him. There was no despair here. This is God has set me here. This is a good thing for me. Talk about a powerful shape of his generative model to be able to meet and digest the uncertainty that he'd found himself in. And that's an open question. I'm very interested in what is it that we're establishing as we're learning and growing and practicing that conditions the shape of our reality generating matrix such that we become increasingly able to eat more and more of this volatility. Ultimately, being able to drink samsara, to say, this place is Leela for me now. The wheel of sharp weapons doesn't touch me. I can eat all of it. I can eat all of it. And I think there's loads of technologies that we have in the Dharma that are meant to establish that right view, right view of the world. For instance, that suffering is natural. Yeah. So the resistance to that is problematic. That being view is what I mean.
Yeah, by fully knowing dukkha, by fully knowing the generative model,
right,
I can proceed accordingly.
Right.
And I can continue to optimize and update. I'm not just, it's not a fixed, not right view is not static, it's a moving target.
No, and there too, right view includes things like humility. I think. It has to. How do you view the world? As a place of learning. Yeah. Oh, think about how powerful that is. If the principal aim is to learn, then you're bulletproof. Because now you're in prison saying, well, now I'm learning some things here, and I'm in.
I'll give you a last really wonderful word you love. Pali word, apalapana. To learn.
I don't know.
To learn.
Yeah. I want it on a t-shirt.
Well, I should let you go. Cool. It's about that time.
Thanks, brother.
Yeah. I'll be in touch.
Please.
I have so much more I want to talk to you off the pod. If you want me to come on yours, let me know.
100%.
I'm around. I got kids and I teach all the time, but I'm just one click away.
Let's do that next, and then let's do some teaching together.
Yes, yeah, totally, man. I got you.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right,
so
brother.
Nice to meet you, Mark. Cheers, bro.
Nice meeting you too. Okay, bye-bye. Later.